We'll call this meeting to order, and first on the order is we need a motion to allow Dwight Torres to participate remotely. Do I have a motion?
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. At this time, we'll ask our Mayor Pro-Tem if he'll deliver our invocation. If you will, please stand.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's bow our heads. Our Father, we come to you humbly this morning, thanking you for all the blessings you've brought into our lives, and let us understand them as blessings, Father, and appreciate them. Father, we also ask you to be with our school children, be with our teachers, and be with all the administrative staff that has started its new school year. Protect them from all this virus, Father. Keep them safe as only you can do. Father, we ask you that you also be with us as we make our decisions here in town. Father, this is a new experience for all of our country. Under this most stressful times, we ask you to be with our businesses, be with each one and every one of us as we try to do. Put your hands on those that need healing, Lord. Lift them up. Father, we ask all these things in your most precious name. Amen.
Amen. I asked our Councilman Don Helms if he'll lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, folks, and you may be seated. As our council person eases his way in, glad to have you, Brian.
Good morning, Mayor.
I know you've been running hard lately.
I'm going to get a smaller vehicle for this parking lot now.
Oh, okay. Well, at this time, we're looking to the future of our town hall and police department. And at this time, we're going to ask Matt from Untitled if he'll come forward and give us an update on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Matt Britton, project manager with Untitled Construction. Good news so far as progress on site. I was just giving the mayor a quick update there. Underground utilities and footings are ongoing right now. We're on schedule to place our slab on grade a week from today, which will be 8/28. Concurrently, underground utilities, we're going to be wrapping up storm installation here the next couple of days, going into the water utilities and sanitary sewer, with the expectation that we're done with all underground utilities by 9/2 is what our plan is. With that said, we've been coordinating with the town. Monday and Tuesday, there will be a road closure directly in front of the job site. We have the traffic plan in place from Funston, that's our civil contractor. I'll get that over to the town here today. So I have it in my inbox this morning, we'll get it to you guys. Basically there'll be signage up, road blockage, road closure signs everywhere, basically from any sort of tie-in area there. So that'll be Monday and Tuesday. Knock on wood, that goes well. Open back up on Wednesday. As far as going vertical, like I said, slab on grade will be Friday, a week from today. The prefabricated wood trusses are released, and the framing and wood trusses and going vertical will start around 9/7, 9/10. Right now we're doing a good bit of the overhead coordination, making sure mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and all that good stuff is working with the trusses that'll come in prefabricated and ready to fly. So, yeah, good news. Any questions?
Keep rolling.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
I appreciate it, and I'll tell you what,
Sure.
so far, one thing I can say about Monteith, they have been right on target, or a little bit ahead of target the whole time.
Yes,
So,
sir. That's the plan. So yeah, knock on wood, and we'll see if this weather can continue to do us some favors. But again, full transparency. You guys need anything from us, please. Kyle's been great, David. Y'all need something, just give us a shout, and we'll do what we can. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
We
Have a good
appreciate
weekend.
it. Thank you. Okay. At this time, we need an approval of the agenda
I'll make a
So-
motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, the approval for the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Postpone, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right. Let's see. Wellhead Protection Program presentation.
Mr. Price.
Yeah, Mr. Price over there, sitting behind the pole.
Council, Mayor, I appreciate the time. As many of you may have known, the utility department has been seeking more and more grant funding this year and previously. In an effort to make us more competitive, for the last 2 months we've been working on a wellhead protection program, us, RWA, and the state. This is fixing to go up to public comment. We'll take an advertisement out in the newspaper and take public comment. This is a very lengthy program. Right now it's shaping up to be between 100 and 150 pages. The council will get a copy for adoption before the next council meeting. I wanted to take the time to explain exactly what we're doing with this and the purpose. So here we are. Slide. Wellhead protection. It's a process of managing the land area around the well to prevent contamination of water supply to ensure a long-term source of clean water. A key feature of this program is that each community develops its own program based on local conditions and priorities using guidelines from the state. We already did wellhead protection with the construction of our wells. We secured the area around it, designed it in a way to make it resistant to contaminants. This takes it a step farther. The main inspiration for our area is what happened with Camp Lejeune back in the 90s, if you're all familiar with that. Next slide, please. There are 7 steps. Determine the planning team, delineate the wellhead protection areas, conduct a inventory of contaminants, develop a management strategy, develop a contingency plan, implement, maintain, update the plan, and submit a wellhead protection plan for approval. Next slide, please. Form and planning, we've already done this, and it's subject to change based on council's wishes, but for time's sake, we went ahead and formed one so we get this process started. Next slide. These are some of the team members that would be a good fit. Next slide. Decided team leader. I put myself as team leader as default, just for time's sake. Next slide. We've already discussed existing conditions. We're actually near the end of this process. Next slide. Next slide. The next process is include the public. Like I said, we're going to take an advertisement out of the paper and open up to public comment. Anybody who wants to read through this document and make suggestions. Next slide. That's our current team, all water operators and a representative from outside, which is the NCRWA. Next, like I said, subject to change based on council wishes. If you guys want to make it a public committee, by all means. Step 2 is delineating the wetlands, where we look over construction records, determining the drawdown when our wells run over a long period of time, such as July 4th. What is that kind of depression? Or what area will contaminants be sucked into the well? Next slide. Like I said, this is just a picture of the aquifer. It's a boilerplate. That's our delineation with our 2 production wells. I got another map. The next slide is a little bit better. And what we did is we actually met and surveyed every business within that area and did a survey with them to submit it to the state. Approximately 20 businesses. Next slide. The inventory, that's the surveys I was mentioning earlier. We met with all of them, went through the inventory, seen how much stuff they keep in stock, oil, gasoline, diesel. Some medical facilities have some special contaminant sources, stuff of that nature. Everybody in the community, inside and outside of Surf Limits, was very accommodating. We do have a few businesses that were not technically part of Surf City, but they still participated, so I'm very grateful for them for that. Next slide. Next slide, please. There's two ways we could go about this. The highlighted way is the way we selected to go is a non-regulatory. We already own the properties around the wells, monitor the state regulated sites for compliance. We're already started that process with the surveys. Educational programs will come next, where everybody within the area will get a either annual or biannual educational material. Tell them, hey, don't dump motor oil in your yard, that kind of thing. And a community action program. That's where if the council decided if you wanted to bring a committee into our established committee to give these feedback, we can do that. Regulatory is a way that initially we decided not to go with. That's where we actually changed the zoning ordinances to prevent certain kinds of businesses from being within that circle. If the council decides to go the way, we'd gladly entertain that. I just take the first step, baby step, kind of thing. Next slide. Developing a contingency plan. We already had this. We're going to tweak this a little bit more. It just says if, God forbid, our well sites get contaminated, a way to shut it down and keep the town operational. A lot of that will be coming with the new Well 6 project. Okay. These are steps. Like right now, the utility department is the plan administrator. We've already notified the property owners. We've initiated management strategy. The community education will come a little bit later. And finalized contingency plan. The last two items are still in the works. I'm sorry. Monitor chemicals used. We've got that taken care of. Track changes in land use and development. That is a record-keeping function of our department. Maintain public awareness. That'll come with the public community education. Update inventory. We'll be doing these surveys annually. That way, if anything changes with these businesses, they start carrying something they haven't done before, we'll know about it and know that there's a potential source of contamination there. And review strategies. We'll do that annually as well. With Well 6, we'll add that to the plan, and that'll make that circle larger. It encompasses more businesses, and we'll have to survey those as well. Staff levels have changed. Like I said, as people get promoted, we add more staff, more people will be added to that team. Pumping volumes. If we put a bigger pump on that well, current depression is going to be deeper, wider, more people, more businesses are going to be in a circle. After we get public comment back, we're going to submit it for approval from the state. Once that happens, we're good. It is enacted. We could put it into action. Next slide. Next slide. Here's some of the benefits. Enhanced safety and awareness of drinking water. State delineated areas that show vulnerable areas. We've done the homework on that, so we know who can affect us. The inventory, so we know what businesses are doing, we know what they got in stock, we know if all of a sudden a chemical shows up in our water, we know where it came from. Surface water plans have recently become mandatory. We're a well water system, but surface waters have to do this mandatory. If they decide to get more restrictive on us on the well water side, we're already set up to do it. We don't have to make any adjustments. These are good for 5 years. 5 years from now, if this is assessed, I'll be coming back before you saying, hey, we'd like to keep this going. this is a big one, the 5 priority points for the water infrastructure funding. If we have this in place and you guys decide to adopt it, every application for funding we get, we automatically get 5 points. Next slide. Action requested for the next council meeting, pass a resolution implementing the wellhead protection. I will make sure you guys have a full set of plans in front of you, and delegate authority to our team, the protection team, to make minor changes, say a typo or something of that nature. That way we make minor changes without having to submit a new 150-page plan to you every time. Like I said, if you have any questions, I'm here for it.
I appreciate your work on it, Dwight. Sure do. And water is definitely something we need, right?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. The Smith Dental Sewer only customer resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning and good morning, council. This is a similar item from last that we looked at with commercial business along 17 and Tractor Supply. There's a parcel along 50 heading towards Holly Ridge that is proposed to annex in the town. Similar to that prior situation, they are within the Rocky Point Topsail Water and Sewer District, and therefore Pender County will have the first right of refusal to provide water services. They do not have sewer, so therefore Smith Dental and the developer is requesting sewer only to be provided to them so that they can develop that parcel and bring that business to the town. So this is up for resolution, Stephanie, or is this just a precursor?
This is just a consensus if you want to move forward with this resolution for sewer only, then we'll place on the consent agenda at the September 1st meeting.
Okay. Did he approach Pender County asking them to release him from?
Yes, Pender County decided not to release the business. So what we're at this step is we've done the first round of the annexation. So if we decide to move forward with allowing for sewer only, then we would place that resolution on the consent agenda and then hold the public hearing later in the meeting. But my understanding is if they can't get the sewer only, then they would not have interest in moving forward with the annexation request.
So,
That's a needed service that they're requesting of the town.
yes. And I mean, I guess it is bringing, one thing, bringing more services and more jobs to Surf City. And so this is the reason we're looking at doing sewer only.
Yeah, and
for them because the
that
county
was,
won't release the water.
according to our policy in our ordinance, is that council does have the authority to approve it. However, there does need to be circumstances in which you are approving that, and similar to last application was investment in commercial, and I think accompanying the medical side of it, there's additional retail opportunities on that site, which would fall in line with that land use plan policy that the ordinance then reflects back to.
Right.
So that will be reflected in the ordinance that gets drafted, or resolution that gets drafted for council to consider.
So,
Has the county got water running out there that's sufficient enough?
Yeah, to my knowledge, yes, sir. They've had preliminary engineering work done on the site.
so I guess the dental office really probably wouldn't require that much water, I don't guess.
This would be our first request.
No, this is, the first one was the agriculture place. And we approved that one, correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
So this would be the second one that we have approved. And of course, I mean, we need to get to work on something because we're probably going to end up with this coming more often.
Yeah.
And
And we don't see Pender County backing
Well, we're meeting with them
on Monday
on Monday.
to initiate the conversations of districting and how all of this is working together, because we do need to work together with the county on utility services because we're so intertwined.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge that we're faced with right now.
But, of course, you do realize that we actually lose money when we furnish sewer only to somewhere. And so anyway, but I still think that it's a good cause for the town. Like I say, it brings commercial investment into the town, gives more services to the town, and also more employment. And it's not just a dental office. My understanding is also a retail space going along with it also. So that will be a benefit. So do I have a motion on whether to accept this resolution? Oh, wait, no.
Consensus so that we can put it on the consent agenda for the September 1st meeting.
Okay.
Agree.
Yeah, do we have a consent? Everybody? Good. Okay.
On the same line, Kyle, you are gonna get us something in the process, working to have a separate thing for this, with the legislature and all this other stuff.
Yeah, so that's it's something I've already talked to Representative Smith about. The way that the current statutes are set up is that we can charge water and sewer rates based on class. So residential, commercial, industrial, we could have different rate structures for. We do not have the authority to set a standalone rate structure for a sewer-only customer. So we feel like we're in a fairly unique situation in that you have two utilities side by side, one that can provide a water service but cannot provide a sewer service, being the county, and then the town being able to provide both. So as the mayor had alluded, being a sewer-only provider on a large scale would be potentially detrimental to our viability of our revenue, because it does cost more to treat wastewater and dispose of that wastewater as opposed to just producing drinking water. So the town would like to pursue our discussions as the General Assembly goes back into session to try and amend that statute or have a special legislation. That'll be up to our representative and how he might want to handle that, to be able to charge a higher rate, of course, on a voluntary basis from that potential customer. So Smith Dental would come to us and we would say, you know, we can move forward with being a sewer only user. However, here are the prescribed rates. They can make a business decision if that's worth it for them. And that helps us make these decisions a little bit more clear.
And I think, depending on how it works out Monday, we'll probably need to ask the county to support that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll talk to the county about that on Monday.
Yeah.
So.
Do we need to disclose that to the two potential businesses now that could happen?
Yeah, and you know, ironically, you know, when Tractor Supply had come to us, and I was talking to them, I said, you know, this is before we started really digging in, because this is the first sewer-only customer for the town, and I asked him, you know, hey, would you consider this to try and offset the loss of being a water provider? They gave me what their average monthly usage was, and we looked at that, and you know, I asked them, would you be willing to do that? And they were all for it. So they make that business decision. You know, it's a voluntary thing for them to decide. I have not talked to anybody with Smith Dental, but
I'm representing today. I'm EH Channels. I'm just sitting here, kind of listening. You know, ideally, obviously, we'd like to be annexed into the town of the water and sewer standpoint. I know Dr. Smith is certainly going to bring, as the mayor said, a viable business in town. He's got it's the location his needs vary, as well as you said, the growth that he's going to put in that development on the other building as well. So we hope that, you know, the town will hopefully support us on that. So, what is that meeting Monday with the county? Is that
It's not public.
not public? I know that. Just curious as far as like when you, so we can kind of get this.
You're more than welcome to call me on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah. It's at 5:00 p.m. on
Gotcha.
Monday.
Very good.
Okay, anything else on that, Kyle?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, the next one is something that we've been waiting for over 20 years. Right, Teresa? Buddy?
Absolutely.
Don?
Yeah.
Been a long time coming, but it is the PPA for our beach nourishment project, and so I'll turn it over to you, Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I think right when I came on board, we got the news that this project was finally going to be initiated, and you know, that's a lot of hard work and dedication from leaders in town to push this, and so it's been exciting to work with the Corps and our partners on getting to this point. As you know, and as we've kept council and the community abreast as to what our actions are, there's been a lot going on in the background, specifically procuring easements, looking at parking and access plans, and then this is the culmination of the initiation of the project from a formal standpoint, which is the project partnership agreement. This lays out the roles and responsibilities for the federal partner, which is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the non-federal partner, which is the towns of Surf City and North Topsail Beach. The PPA is required to be authorized by Surf City as well as North Topsail Beach, which will then be forwarded along to the Army Corps of Engineers to headquarters. So it's a 20-page agreement, one in which we went through, had several questions pertaining to some of the language. The Corps was able to respond back to that with what I felt were sufficient responses. We weren't necessarily looking to have the Corps change this agreement in its form or content. There's just things that we needed to make sure that we knew before we were getting involved in it. So I felt comfortable with the responses provided back from our district office in Wilmington. As you know, this will place approximately 12 million cubic yards along the entire shoreline of Surf City, as well as approximately 3.5 or 4 miles in North Topsail Beach. Phase 1 is anticipated to begin around December or into the early of 2021. That first phase, it will be a separate contract that's let, and that will go from the town line at Topsail Beach from the south end up to approximately Ocean Air, which is about 2 miles. So pretty substantial project. In the meantime, they'll be working on their, the Corps will be working on their environmental permitting to try and open up the sand placement year-round. So this will be, as it stands right now, in subsequent phases to complete the entire project, according to the documents that they've provided us, going through about 2024. That's for the initial construction of the project. Beyond that, we will be on a 50-year program with the Army Corps, and our beach will be an engineered beach for that time period. Within that 50 years, there's a built-in re-nourishment cycle that occurs every 6 years. So the Corps will come back and assess what sand we might have lost, what sand we might have gained. We don't know as tides change, but nonetheless, we will have surveys of our beach and our volumes to prepare and present to them. Between those 6 years, what's different than what traditionally is done is FEMA claim and reimbursement after storm events.
if we're an Army Corps of Engineer beach, then we don't deal with FEMA anymore on the sand. We will submit our survey to the Army Corps, and then they will nourish our beach back to the original template from named storm events. Now that's not always guaranteed. However, we will keep track of our sand volumes and submit those, and if they have the funding or they get the funding, then they will do that renourishment after a named storm event, which then coincides with that 6-year renourishment cycle. And if the volumes are adequate to that template, then they're not coming back in to do the renourishment. So that's sort of the two pieces to this project. In simplified terms, I guess I can say, it's a very complex project, but all the bidding, all the construction, everything gets handled through the Army Corps of Engineers. We become the responsible entity for some basic maintenance of the dune structures, knocking down escarpments if they show up, doing some surveying of the beaches after storms, and then on an annual cycle so we can report back to them. So I provided the financial figures as noted from the Army Corps documents, and something that we've known about the entire time. The total appropriation for the project is $237 million. We know that the costs will be directly based on sand volume placed, but it could not exceed that $237 million because that's what has been appropriated within the Corps' budget. We are responsible for 50% of that 50%. The state traditionally kicks in their half of that. We've already seen $12.5 million appropriated at the state level through the General Assembly. So we're moving right along with everything on this project. So with that, I am more than happy to answer any questions. Stephanie has been lock key, and looks like the attorney has something to say on it.
For those of you, Mayor and Council, for those of you who were not on the this past Wednesday 19th call, there's one variation that's somewhat, or could be somewhat significant from what we have been discussing since January and what is found in the PPA, and that's the credible costs associated with acquiring real estate. In the kickoff meeting we had at the end of January, we were told there's a 5-year look back. 5 years from the date the PPA becomes effective, you look back 5 years, and any eligible costs associated with acquiring real estate we would get credit for up to 5 years prior to the PPA. Article 5, subsection 1D, and you can find that on page 12 of the PPA, says that those costs, the credit is only for costs incurred after the effective date of the PPA. We had a discussion about that internally at our last meeting in this room, and then we had a discussion with the Corps on Wednesday. I'm encouraged by the fact that the Corps openly acknowledged that that's different than what they have been representing to us, and that everyone on that call, which was the central project team on the Corps side, is in favor of us obtaining a waiver. It looks like we will not be able to obtain a waiver prior to the time we will need to have all the real estate in hand, so there is a risk that the costs through the date of the PPA may not be credited. Kyle, you were on the call. Mayor, I believe you and Councilmember Batson.
I still didn't understand. All right. Is it when we signed the PPA or when they
reads
when they accept the PPA?
Well, it would be when all parties sign it, because the way it actually reads is after the effective date of this agreement. So arguably, they could make the effective date retroactive. I don't think they'll do that. And I got the unequivocal sense from the call on Wednesday that the route we're going to have to take is obtain a waiver. Apparently there was this was not statutorily driven, it was a policy driven change. They appeared to be somewhat surprised with this change, Thankfully, though, they were in lockstep with us in seeking to get a waiver of that.
Yeah, because they were admitting that they had been telling us.
Yes, sir. And they readily acknowledged that. They readily acknowledged that this is inconsistent with the advice they've been giving us. So far, and I want to commend staff, this is by and large mostly staff, but we have all but 29 easements for the phase 1. And I'm shocked by that. I mean, that's great. And so the risk is not going to be the same as it would be if we had to go file 300 condemnation suits. And I don't know why we don't have these 29 easements. My experience has been a lot of times it's just people can't be found or they just don't really bother with it, kind of push it to the edge of their desk, you know. So I don't know how hard, if at all, people will contest these last 29, but I commend Stephanie and Kyle and the rest of staff. So there is a risk. There's no guarantees. The Corps was united on Wednesday that they're going to push to get this waiver for us, and I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention.
I think some of the problem is people just don't realize how serious it is that they go ahead and do the waiver. The lady that Stephanie ran into the other day, Stephanie told her she'd come by and she said, "Oh yeah, I do need to do that." So.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, for purposes of risk assessment, I want y'all to assume that we're going to have to file at this point 29 condemnation suits,
right.
And the costs associated with that up to the date of the PPA may not be credited. So,
right.
But I'm encouraged by the tenor of the Corps' conversation on Wednesday. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is the post-storm surveillance, and they answered this in response to Kyle's questions. Kyle sent around the Corps' responses to everyone. On page 3, in response to question 6 regarding post-storm surveys, they said that in the PPA, that surveillance is just a visual inspection as opposed to a full-blown survey.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I understand we have to do the inspection twice a year.
Right.
And, or after each storm.
Right. Well, and the significance of that is if it's on our nickel, a visual inspection is much cheaper and quicker than a full-blown
right.
survey. And that's something we do anyway. We will fly a drone over the beach just to assure damages. So.
Yeah, we do that before the storm and after the storm.
Yep.
Yeah.
But a physical inspection is much less demanding on staff and our resources than a full-blown quantifying sand before and post via a formal survey. So
right.
I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention. And unless y'all have any questions of me regarding that, that's all I had. And what I'm referring to, you can find on page 12 of the PPA under subsection D, incidental costs.
And I would just say in regards to the waiver, we'll have a good audience on Wednesday next week to discuss that, to make sure we bring that up to our federal legislators that will be here that might be able to assist with discussion with the Corps on their policy on that.
Right.
So.
Okay.
And I think it's important to stress to them that even the Corps acknowledges that they've been advising us based off prior PPA format where there's a 5-year look back. And they acknowledge that on the phone. They didn't run from that at all.
I'll develop a bullet point list for you, Mayor.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. What else you got?
That's it, unless you have any specific questions on the PPA. This I feel is a very monumental position that we're in to move forward and look forward to doing that. So.
Okay, so what action do you want us to take?
I would like a motion, second, and an adoption to
on the PPA?
Execute the PPA.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I make the motion, we adopt the PPA.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. I saw the hand go up on the screen. So.
And for the minutes, for the minutes.
So anyway, It is unanimous. I wouldn't have expected anything different. Yes.
Just for sake of clarification in the minutes, by adoption, it is to enter into the PPA.
Yes,
Okay,
to adopt the PPA and sign
Yes, sir.
PPA.
I'm glad to see us head that way. We worked on this a long time, and I appreciate the lawyers bringing this to our attention, but I think that that we all consider this the best along with that possibility. And the Corps being as open and transparent as they were and saying that these are some moving parts and they're willing to try to help support that waiver, I think it's a good possibility that waiver can come, but if it doesn't, we still need to move forward, and I thank you for your advice, and I thank the council for doing this. This is something that's been in the works a long time.
Yes, sir. And in the grand scheme of things, if you look at the grand cost, that this should not be a showstopper, but again, the Corps was very transparent. I think they'll help us any way they can.
Right. But I think it's really, if we have to, we could give that up in order to get this done.
Not without a fight.
Okay. Folks, that's the big thing for today.
Yeah,
But anyway.
yeah, we can go home now.
Okay, of course, the next thing is something new for Surf City, but I think it will be something good for the children of Surf City, so I guess I'll turn this one over to Chad, right?
We'll try to follow that.
This is called a Surf Cities Explorers Club.
Good morning, council. Good morning, mayor. So this is something that we continue to work on. Obviously, I outlined some potential challenges. We did have a small challenge that was kind of thrown in front of us in the last couple of weeks. On August the 5th, the DCDEE, essentially the early education, the Division of Child Development and Early Education determined that they were going to put in a rule change recommendation that would basically allow us to enter into a contractual agreement with school systems to provide an off-site learning center. Obviously our program, as I outlined it, we were more focused on the recreation standpoint. That was covered within the general statute. The general statute, I guess, has kind of altered a little bit. So in order for us to proceed without any other roadblocks, it's in our best interest at this time to enter into an agreement, MOU, with the Pender County Schools. Pender County Schools does have this MOU. They are looking over that, so we're trying to keep the wheels moving forward. We don't want to, we want to get this thing out as soon as we can because we've got a lot of parents, we've got a lot of staff even that are waiting for something to come out from us so that they can have an option for their child. You guys have the MOU in front of you. It essentially, in summary, takes all of the liability and all the financial liability off of Pender County, and it puts it on us, so we would still be running the program as planned. They did come up with the neat little name of Explorers, so that was, we wanted to give it a little bit of a fun twist. This is nothing but good. It's basically the same thing that we discussed the last meeting. So I wanted to let you guys have an opportunity to ask questions on this, and the recommendation is to, if you guys would allow us to proceed with the MOU with Pender County Schools.
I think it's a good benefit for the children and a great benefit for the parents, probably.
Yeah, sure.
So, and it would probably, this way you're helping them with their online education also at the same time, and probably giving them some recreation as well, so I think it's a good idea.
Did I miss anything, Mr. Brewer?
No, I don't think so. The only thing I was just going to add was, we have tried to
put forth a program for the benefit of our community, and we put our community first. And this was, even from the last time that Chad had presented to you, this was something new. And I tried to work with the governor's office to get around this. It seems cumbersome, but I won't complain too much about it. We just need to make sure the Board of Education follows up, because we legally cannot be doing this program until we have an executed MOU, because the state wants to look at us as a child care provider now, which is something we're not. But nonetheless, that's probably my frustration coming out a little bit with it, but we will try to press the Board of Education as much as we can to get them to adopt it.
Yeah, and then probably one thing, they got hit with this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because, they're probably trying to control a little bit of it.
Sure. Well, we've got a good relationship with the superintendent.
Yeah,
and,
make sure nobody's taking advantage
Yeah.
of the situation.
Yep. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do we have any questions from any?
Yeah, this is Dwight. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Go ahead, Dwight.
Just a quick question. When it says zero financial assistance from Pender, and that means we're taking on 100% of the cost. I mean, I'm not 100% agreeing, love the idea, both for the children and the parents. But what is the estimated cost of this over the course of, I thought I read 4 months for the program.
I think, well, we're charging, I'll let you answer that.
So it's going to depend on how this phase plan opens up. If the school system changes the way that they're operating, obviously we enter into the first semester and then we go to the second semester. So it all depends. The potential for this, we take 100% of the expenses, but we also take 100% of the revenue. The potential revenue largely offsets the expense. And I think I had that in the previous meeting.
You did.
And I can get that to you. I don't have it available in this one.
Yeah, what I'm, please send me whatever you have. What I'm looking to see is what is, one, the capacity, because it's kindergarten through 5th grade, right? So capacity per grade. And if we had 100% participation in capacity, would we at least be breaking even with our estimated cost?
Yes, sir.
Yes, in fact, we'll come out a little
far
bit
exceed
ahead.
our expenses, far exceed, and far as the revenue. And again, I can send you, I'll make sure that you get those numbers.
It is also available online in last month's agenda packet.
It was in last month's.
Yeah, it was in
agenda
last month's
Okay.
agenda package.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Okay, anybody else got a question?
No, we need to approve it or what?
Yes,
I make a
Okay.
motion, we approve it.
second. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, skating on streets or sidewalks? Turn this over to you, Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is a culmination of a few discussions that we've had. As I had reported to you last time, it was important for me to really visually show you where at in town we can allow skateboarding. As the primary impetus of this is along roadways with speed limits posted at 25 miles per hour or less. Other provisions of this ordinance is that riders have to yield to any pedestrian or vehicular traffic, that riders may cross a street that has a posted speed limit greater than 25. So if you have a higher speed limit perpendicular to that lower and you got to get to the other side of the street, you're allowed to do that. Common sense things. And then that riders can operate a device on the town sidewalks. However, the yield to pedestrians takes priority, including a dismount of the device until the pedestrian passes. Furthermore, we did discuss with council and felt that it was probably pertinent to limit the ability to ride on the
Surf City Bridge on the multi-use path. Due to the conflict with numerous pedestrians that are on that bridge, municipal-owned parking lots, and then public parking lots which have posted signs restricting such activity, which, you know, they can put up signs and regulate their own property. Furthermore, there was some clarification on, you know, this sort of is lumped into the ordinance about riding on handlebars. And, you know, we felt that, you know, there's some newer designs out there that allows for children or toddlers or babies to be with their parent or guardian. So there was some language that was added in there about a front mount child bicycle seat to be allowed. So if you'll move to the map, thank Jason for getting that together. And as you can see, this covers basically all of our subdivisions, or a majority of our subdivisions, and it covers the island secondary streets. So everything in green on that map would be allowable for people to ride a device on. And then we did take or eliminate the provision of riding at night, because we do have street lights and things of that nature, and sometimes that's a preferred time to get exercise as folks are riding at night.
And now, just to clarify, public streets and roads are not under our...
That's correct. That's under DOT, but I'll let the...
What do you think about that, Steve?
Technical.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, like, a lot of subdivisions, the roads are private.
Private roads.
So they don't show up on this.
That's correct. Yes, they could ride on the private streets. Obviously, we can't control that. That's correct.
All right.
And what we did with this map is used our Powell bill map, which documents our
That's what I'm saying, but I just wanted to make it clear that we're not saying that they can only ride on these green streets.
Yes, sir.
That they can ride on private streets as well. Yeah. Because most of the private streets are going to be 25 mile an hour or less anyway.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we want to pass this now?
Yeah.
Make a motion?
I make the motion we pass.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. We can now start skating on the streets. Oh, that's right, we've been doing it anyway, haven't we?
Cal,
anyway.
It's dated September 1st.
Okay, we'll make the amendment. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Second on that, I'm sorry.
Me?
Do what?
Mr. Helms.
Okay.
Councilman Helms.
Property-wise, turn it over to Mr. Brewer.
Okay. Should have grabbed water instead of coffee, I think, this morning. So we are at the point where we're starting to get offers, and we have had offers, and council had turned the initial one down, but you have multiple in front of you today, and what I'm asking is for council to discuss some options moving forward, but I'll kind of go through just in general terms what we have. In your packet, you see we resubmitted the map that shows what is on the table. That's labeled lots 1 through 6. Lot 6 being the actual property that contains the police department structure. 1 through 3 being on the south side of Goldsboro Avenue, 4 being at the terminus of Goldsboro Avenue, and then 5 being the lot right behind the police department where the concrete pad sits, that I'm sure everybody is familiar with. The way that the property has been advertised is that the town would consider offers to purchase on one or all of the tracts of the outside tracks are just the police department. And the first one that I'll discuss, we have a letter of intent in front of you submitted by Mr. James C. Gardner at the price of $1.925 million. That includes all 6 tracks, but then the caveat to that is that Mr. Gardner would like to close on that property and lease back the police department to the town for a monthly rate of $10,000. That way he would assume possession of the property, and then we would enter into a lease agreement at $10,000 per month. That comes out to approximately $80,000 or $90,000 due to the timing of town hall. As a reminder, we do have provisions in our town hall contract that we would be able to collect funds from the contractor if they don't deliver. So there's a layer of protection there. But again, the offer on the table is less than what the overall property and structure was appraised at. The value approximately 3.75. So the way that the upset bid process works is that if council wants to consider a bid that's been submitted, you can essentially with no risk to the town. The way that the upset bid process works is that we then would collect a deposit at 10% of the total value that would sit with Stephanie, and then we would advertise that we have a bid on the property. That advertisement then puts other potential bidders on notice that they can upset the initial offer that was submitted. We can go through that cycle until nobody bids on the property, and then you either accept that highest bid or you reject everything that's ever been submitted and we start from scratch. Or we can look at this and we can say, we're not going to bring anything to council until we hit a certain dollar threshold. I think that probably administratively would be a little easier to manage. However, we'll do whatever council wants to do. The secondary option is that we can advertise a sealed bid at a dollar figure and see if we get bids submitted in that format. And that's we advertise a specific date that we have to have bids submitted, and we do a opening of all those bids at once, and then we would consider the highest bidder. Again, you can reject everything that has been submitted to you. Subsequently, we have 2 separate offers from Mr. Kennedy. Again, back referring to that initial map of lots. Now let me go back. 1 and 3 at $50,000, or 1, 2, 3, and 4 at a cumulative of $200,000. So we have three potential offers or bids on the table, all for 3 different things. So I will yield to council on discussion with this and see where we want to go with it. If you want to try and move through an upset bid process with any one of the 3 offers, we certainly can, and see where it goes from there, or we can sort of regroup and address it. So I do offer that to council this morning for consideration. And again, if there's direction, we will prepare something for September, or we can go back to the drawing board per se.
So at this point, I mean, we could accept this bid knowing that where it's not going to be a final acceptance.
That's correct, yeah.
We know we can't let it go for this amount.
You're not technically accepting it, you're considering the acceptance.
Okay.
You can't accept it until we go
The
through
very
this.
end, yeah.
Okay,
until
so
go
we,
through this process.
in other words, this ain't gonna be the end thing.
No, sir.
But
This-
this bid is
So, I mean,
drastically low.
But it
Yeah,
could be
well,
if no one else bids,
let me
you
ask-
still reserve the right to reject it.
what do you think would be the best process, council?
If you want to see if there's interest out there, you would need to go ahead and advertise, hey, just like Kyle's saying, we received this offer, we're considering it. And then that starts the upset bid process.
So you think that would be the best way to do it? Yeah.
If you want to see if you have any intentions of disposing of the property, yes, sir. But we need to make it clear that at this point, we're considering it, not that if we don't get an upset bid, we're automatically accepting it.
Yes. That's what I want to make sure we don't get stuck with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Kyle,
This amount of money.
the advertisement, as I've read it, said that the council received it and they're considering it, right? Isn't that what the notice?
Well, we would put a resolution on for September 1st to consider the property as surplus, and that would then
The
initiate
resolution's attached in there, but it's for September 1st.
Right, but it doesn't, let me just take a look at it. Well, we're not passing it right now anyway, so. Well, to answer the concern, we will make sure, and I think it's already that way, that the advertisement does not read that we will accept that bid if we don't get an upset in it.
At the last line of the resolution says they reserve the right to reject or deny at any moment or at any time.
We're good.
Just make sure we're covered on everything.
And I'll communicate with, I'm assuming we want to move forward in the motion or process of the full property bid.
Yeah.
And I'll communicate to the bidder or the bidder's agent that there's still going to be a right to reject. And I think that would send a message to the bidder and the bidder's agent that if there's no upsets that come in, that their initial bid might need to be increased.
Now, shut me up if I'm not supposed to be saying this or if I'm talking out of turn. Okay, Goldsboro Avenue. If somebody buys 1 through 6 of this property,
Goldsboro Avenue would go to be divided evenly down the middle and would go to the ownership on both sides of the property.
right, that's what I'm saying.
If you
What
close the
they're
street-
getting, if a small portion of Goldsboro Avenue would go with the house that's there, that doesn't belong with us. But the whole back end of Goldsboro Avenue, looking at your map, would go to the person that bought all the property, right?
Correct. If they requested a street closure.
So that would give them a lot more property. So, I mean, if they know that when they're bidding on that property, I mean, that's gonna make it, with that street closure, would make that property a lot more appealing, I think.
Well, but until the street's closed, it's not closed. So you can't advertise it as being part of the property.
Council would have to move forward with closing the street and the statutory requirements for notification and advertisement, and then we could close
Right.
the street
Right.
if that was something that the board wanted to do.
But the only one that could appeal closure of the street would be the people that own the property on either side, right?
Anybody that was affected by the closure. But
Yes.
the short answer is yes.
Yes, okay. So
But
what
one of
I'm
the
saying is,
findings,
I mean,
in a street closure statute, one of the findings you have to find that's in the public interest and it's not depriving anybody of ingress and egress. So
Right.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but you could have them going simultaneous tracks, start the street closure process now. I mean, it's not on today's agenda, but at the September 1st meeting, we could put it on the agenda, do the
I have a question, sorry.
do the advertisement and everything. Yes, sir.
Question. So if we close that street, it's an extra 4,300 square feet of property, would that be more, would that bring more value in the sale? of that
yes,
property?
to me, it would make,
So can we, how do we do that process? I'm just asking.
I don't know, I mean, it would make, I'm sure that probably anybody that's gonna pay $375,000 for this property can probably figure that out themselves. But I wanna make sure that they know that. I mean, it would make it makes that property a lot more valuable to be, then that property is continuous across that back.
I want us to be careful. I don't think we should advertise that that we're going to close it. I mean, what we can say is on September 1st on the agenda, we're going to have an agenda item to close the street, and we'll start the street closure process. But there's a couple findings you have to make before you can close the street. And I don't want to give the impression that it's a done deal, because I know this council will look at the facts and make those findings if they're there.
And, well, and two, looking at it, and we'll do some research on it, of course, and looking at Goldsboro Avenue and how was created, et cetera. But, you know, the structure at 301 North New River has direct access to North New River. So, again, we'll do the research on it, but their only means of access is not Goldsboro Avenue.
For the way
I did
that house is positioned on Goldsboro.
Gotcha. But theoretically, they have legal
Yeah,
access
they
to
could
North New
park
River.
to the side.
But I took a measurement
Maybe.
from the edge of their property line going back towards the water, and that was about 125 feet to the terminus of Goldsboro. Goldsboro Avenue is about a 35-foot wide right-of-way, so that's what gave us the 4,375 square feet of a potential additional area, even if we left Goldsboro Avenue open to the end of that lot.
Yeah, you can close a portion of it.
Sure.
You don't have to close the whole
Sure.
thing. And there's certain conditions where you can reserve easements, but that's generally for utilities.
So we can look at that and certainly pursue any of that we want to do to continue to bring value to the property.
Yeah. Of course, if I owned that house, I'd want it closed and me gain half of that
Do we
street.
know if Mr. Gardner is purchasing the home?
I do not know that. I can speak to his agent. I'm sure they're listening.
I'm sure that if somebody buys all this property, they're gonna try their best to buy that house.
Yeah, I don't know what their intentions would be with that.
I'd like to go back to what Lori said about the resolution we're making. I think that number 3 says the council proposes to accept the offer unless a qualifying upset bid. Could we not say the council will consider accepting the offer being made rather than the process being we will? I think it'd be better to say the council will be considering accepting the offer unless a qualifying upset bid is made.
Yes, sir. Consider.
Okay, well, we're not gonna do that today anyway, right? We're gonna wait and do it at the meeting next month.
Yeah, we'll get the language worked in there just to
Okay.
make sure that we're clearly.
It says the council reserves the right to deny bids at any time is the very last line on the,
Okay.
the offer for the 1.9.
So we'll make it absolutely clear that at most the council's considering it. There's no automatic acceptance if we don't get a qualified upset bid.
And that'll be on the September 1st agenda.
There are, as far as the appraisals are online for all the properties.
Yeah.
I do know that, like, come November, there's gonna be some really nice comps that will even probably put us in a better position as far as an appraisal and a buyer. If a buyer's looking at it, they're gonna see some really nice comps that will, support this even more. So, you know, it's a little piece of heaven still sitting over there on the sound side, so it's gonna be valuable to someone.
Well, you never make your best offer anyway, you know, to start with. That was like the guy that made that very first offer to us. I said, I don't blame you, but if you gotta add another $1 million to it, you might get it. All right,
Mayor, I have a quick question. I just want to make a request for additional information in order to put the offer in context as far as the entire offer for all 6 lots. You don't have to give this to me today, whoever has it, but what's the town's total investment thus far, so we can just compare? And then what is the square footage of the police department, so I can figure out what they're charging per square foot with the $10,000 offer for the rent?
I can pull the information.
Planning department.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I mean, it's on the website for the town hall, but 8,114 square feet is the total for the police department.
Okay, and then our total investment thus far, again, I don't want that now, but if someone could send me that in an email.
Have that, but I can track something down through probably tax records as to what the town bought the other properties for and built the police station for.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm looking for, thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, and I think, to me, the 10,000 a month is a little bit high when he adds in all the, in other words, he's adding back the property taxes, the upkeep and all that stuff, so that's,
He's a little bit strong.
yeah, when you lease something out, usually you don't collect all that other additional stuff as far as with your lease. Okay, all righty. Mr. Chad, you up again?
So, everybody knows we have the beach wheelchairs. We've had them for years. Police department, fire department, they've been working with that program for a while. It's kind of gotten to the point where the demand is really getting a lot higher. We did take that. We moved it over to the Welcome Center. And what we're looking to do is we've tried to make it a little bit more of a structured program. We want to be able to put this out. We want people to be able to go online if they want to request one of these beach wheelchairs. We want them to have that capability of doing that without having it, in case they can't get a staff member on the phone or whatnot, they're able to do so. So also, these beach wheelchairs, they're pretty expensive. They run anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000 a piece. So what we're trying to put together is an opportunity for sponsorships for these beach wheelchairs, and we want people to be able to, and businesses to, what we call give the gift of mobility. As I've always told you guys, I've got a father that's disabled and a best friend that's disabled. So it's very important to me, and I want to make sure that we're able to offer these services and offer the access to the beach. I know people always point out the mats. The problem with the mats are you can only go as far as the mat goes. When it comes to a beach wheelchair, you can go as far as somebody can push it. So this is the best option, in my opinion, for the town of Surf City, and we want to try to make this a very successful program. Having said that, these beach wheelchairs, with the amount that they do cost, what my request is we'd like to add a $50 refundable, which means if they return the chair and it's in good shape and good condition, then they would receive the $50 back, because we're not trying to charge for this. That is not our intent. We do want this to be a free service, but we want to be able to make sure we've got something that holds people accountable from returning it in good condition and such. So that is the request at this time, is to request to add this $50 refundable deposit to the fee schedule if that's necessary.
Question.
Yes.
Do you take a credit card when you take a credit card?
Yes, sir.
So if it's more than $50, you'll charge that card for that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So we'll have a lot more information if you look at your what we provided on there. It's a registration, so it'll have the person's name, their home address, the vehicle, and we'll take a lot of that information as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, how many do we have now? 2 or 3?
Yeah, we're up to 3. I think the police department said they've just got a brand new one, so we'll have 4. The goal is to we'd like to try to get to 10, see how that goes, and then if we need to get additional, then we'll open up for additional sponsorship. So.
Are all 3 rented out right now or leased out right now?
I'm not sure if they are right now, but they're going out pretty quick.
They were the other day. When we were here, they were all gone.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting requests. We haven't even put it out. Once we put this program out, I assume especially in the peak season, we're gonna probably get a lot more requests.
We need to let Scout know that, it makes a great Eagle project.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's where one of the chairs came from.
I have a recommendation that I think may help you in your quest for raising some of this money. If you add a simple question on your application or user agreement, veteran yes or no, that may allow you, if you can prove that veterans are using this program, I'm sure veterans foundations will be happy to help you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That is a great idea, actually.
You're welcome.
So, do they make these chairs commercially or what?
They do.
And they cost that much?
Yes, sir. It's unfortunately, anytime you get anything that's an ADA accessible item, the price tag goes up. They do make a couple of different versions that actually will go into the water and allow the person to float. That's one. I don't know if you're familiar with down in Carolina Beach when they do the surfing for disability. It's people with disabilities. They have a wheelchair and it rolls them right out, and it's got flotation devices on both sides on the arms, so it allows them to get into the water. That would be an ultimate goal, is to be able to provide that type of service. With Ocean Fest has really tried to focus in on providing and surfing opportunities for people with disabilities. So this would be a perfect opportunity to start to move towards that. I know the community is very, they've shown a high interest in having access to the beach. So we've done that, and we put the access points with the Hatteras ramps, and the beach wheelchairs are able to get over those Hatteras ramps really easily. So.
Okay.
Did you have something, Brian?
Yes, I just, and this is a great program. I'd like to add one, or recommend that we add one bullet point to the liability waiver and use agreement. It's a very well-written document, but I'd like to add a bullet point where they acknowledge that they have the right to seek legal counsel of their own choosing to obtain advice prior to signing this release. I mean, it'd take me 2 seconds to do that.
Absolutely. Not a problem.
So they have the right to do it, they don't have to.
That's up to them. We're just saying. I mean, I just think if you go if you have to in an unfortunate event.
You're right, yeah.
You can say, we told them, you can go to your lawyer before you sign this.
Right.
It's just an extra layer of protection. I mean.
Yeah, that way if they say later on, I didn't understand what I was signing. Well, you had a chance to have a legal advice on it.
Thank you.
But otherwise, it's a well-written waiver.
Okay.
So I guess the only other thing I need is, do I need to have this $50 deposit on the fee schedule? Is that the?
Yeah, I mean,
I
if it's
think we need
something,
to go ahead and approve the fee, just add it to it.
Yeah.
But a consensus, we don't need to do anything different, I don't believe.
no.
Do we need a budget ordinance amendment?
It can be on the consent agenda for next month.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect.
All right, so I'll add the program and the budget word amendment to go with it to the September 1st agenda.
Yes, and what I'll provide to you is a document showing the updated request by counsel and attorney.
Perfect.
You put that on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Have we got anything else? Kyle, you got anything else need to come before the board?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Attorney, you have anything need to come before the board? Okay. If we don't have anything else,
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
do I have a second?
Second.
See you, Dwight.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Stay on Dwight, just a moment more.
Okay. All right, now, do what?